Banking, I would argue, is the most heavily regulated industry in the world. Regulations don't solve things. Supervision solves things.
The Bitcoin reserve it's of course important, but it's not as important as the fact that the war on crypto by the US government is officially over. It really is. You've never seen a 180-degree shift so quickly from one administration to the next. What happened in the last few years is we were talking about what is crypto, then why is crypto important? Now it's how are we going to bring crypto to the US? You've got the executive orders, you've got the SEC actions giving you air cover and setting the tone, already bringing builders back to the US, but then you have real legislative rolling up your sleeves. We were just in Doral talking to Republican Congress people. Where does DeFi fit on the board? How do we sequence this? How do we get things done
Just 6 months ago, we were wondering what crypto companies were going to be sued next. What type of hurdles will anti-crypto politicians throw in the runway of crypto? As DC regulates, we will see wealth being pushed into this space, and projects with real world utility will benefit the most.
Is it just that? Is it just digital gold?
Well, it's chicken and egg. You need the regulations and a framework to build. Crypto was a back-end technology first. You're going to see an explosion of building on top of crypto now. It's not just digital gold. You have Ethereum and Solana, obviously, but stablecoins. What you're going to see is stablecoins moving from a $200 billion market cap to $400 or $500 billion. It's a cheaper technology. The settlement is faster. It's found product market fit. We don't need to do anything except to put more fuel on that.
A lot of crypto's airtime is set to discuss the difference between Bitcoin and gold, but the reality is these are protocols that house wealth and make it available for everybody to participate and everybody interact with any form of wealth that's imaginable.
It kind of depends on what you mean by crypto, right? And so the blockchain technology, we've got a lot of patents on it. We've done it. Then there's a stablecoin type of currency, digital currency, and then there's the investment management type of currency. And I think the first one and the second one, yes. The third one's hard because that's really an investment question and how it works. But the issue has been for the last 10 years, as this has been talked about, is the enabling legislation was never there for the mainstream financial institutions to participate. So not only do we have issues with supporting clients in the business, but we couldn't really transact it because of AML and BSA issues and all that stuff, and also sort of where the money is and who's holding it. So I think if you see enabling legislation, I think you're going to see our industry come at this hard. It's just another form of payment backed by dollars and treasuries and things like that in a stable environment. We'll come after it. It's
Bank of America's CEO is telling you that the banks are waiting on the sidelines, and as soon as there's regulation, and that is what the Trump administration has promised to the crypto public, is that we will get regulations, the banks are going to come, quote, hard at this, meaning they're going to seize the opportunity. Now, he differentiates the different types of use cases, and the low-hanging fruit right away is the stablecoin legislation, backing tokens with treasuries in order to use them as a payments vehicle. You may recall that Bank of America is a RippleNet-enabled bank, as well as there has been patents using Ripple technology in Bank of America's patents. So, as regulations develop, we are going to see a rush between the banks to utilize this technology. And most of these banks are not creating in-house systems. They're doing what Bank of America has did and partnering with some of the fintech providers, some of the crypto-based companies. Just imagine the impact that this will have just on stablecoins. You see a mad rush of traditional banking clients partnering with a lot of the crypto-based companies. Just those headlines are going to severely impact the crypto markets.
If you think about, I go to here in Switzerland to a small village and I hand them a credit card and I get dinner. If I could pay them with a stable currency and get dinner, I wouldn't care if I was a consumer. And so I think that methodology will become a part of core banking. We already send that. We don't need a digital currency bank. We already have $3 trillion will go out in digital money over, not today's a holiday, but tomorrow. And that's what we do. So it's not new to send digital currency. This will give you another mechanism which may allow cross-border transactions or people traveling and transactions or buying earrings and small balances through e-commerce and stuff. Maybe travel a little bit here with a little less tariff. That could be good, but it has to be stable coins. It has to be backed by something that we understand. It's hard in the investment area we'll leave that to people to make their own choice.
Fair enough.
Now, Brian gives the example that a consumer is buying a necklace or earrings in a different country, and they use the stable coin to purchase goods or services in a different country. But in order for some type of system to happen like this, there needs to be Forex conversion, because the bank that takes money on behalf of the merchant is going to just automatically swap the dollars for euros or wherever the jurisdiction is. So a lot of the patents that Bank of America is using the XRP ledger for things like this. I would imagine a lot of the regulations aren't ironed out, but a lot of the central bankers, like Augustin Carstens, has also talked about the idea of having a stable coin, a global stable coin. You may remember that the G20 pushed out some papers and documents talking about global stable coins and the idea that everything needs to be backed by something else. But like I said, with Forex conversion, how are you going to make a global stable coin backed by something unless it's a basket of different reserves? So there's still murky waters ahead, and the use case for cross currency has to be one of the better use cases out there for crypto, and it's the simplicity. Right. And think about the amount of wealth that's in the world that needs to be converted. So as this progresses, we're going to see more and more value come on chain, but also more and more utility take place. The banks are going to be in a mad rush to try to solve this because there's a lot of money on the lines.
Yeah, I don't think it undermined anything with the strategic Bitcoin reserve. That effort is still alive and well. Cynthia Lummis in the Senate in the US is really pushing that idea. And I think it would be a good idea for anybody who's not familiar with it. There is a proposal for the US government to start to hold Bitcoin. The US government, like many countries, they hold reserves in a variety of different assets, gold, oil, rare minerals like palladium. And I think they have like maybe 27 different reserves. And so, many governments hold gold. I think they should start to hold Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is essentially the new gold standard. It's, I think, a very core way that you should hold assets and hold value over time. And it's still nascent enough where it has some volatility. It's getting less and less over time, but it still has a lot of upside potential. So I think if the US gets that legislation approved, which I hope they do, the rest of the G20 will follow. And that could be a huge driver of Bitcoin price appreciation.
I'm not a huge fan of the strategic Bitcoin reserve. For the reserve to make sense, they are tapping out with the debt problem. They're saying the debt is going to win, and eventually, when fiat crumbles into nothingness, we need to be positioned with allocations of crypto in the next system. Cynthia Lummis, as well as other politicians like RFK Jr., decided that they were going to propose the idea of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And just because that I may be against it doesn't mean that it won't happen either. Now, Brad Garlinghouse was trying to push the idea to President Trump to make it a basket of altcoins that were tied somehow to U.S. businesses. I think that is even going to be a more difficult thing to try to make happen, because you're going right away, the group of people to even pass off on a strategic Bitcoin reserve is small. Then you're going to divide it up even more so with people getting into the debate of Bitcoin versus altcoins. So if something like this were to happen, I would think that would come later down the pike in the Trump administration. I don't think it's going to be the first things that happen, but keep in mind that we don't need a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We just need a level playing field. We just need the politicians and the SEC and the CFTC to say, this is a digital asset. This is what a security token looks like. This is what a payments token looks like, and define it and do their jobs. Once they do their jobs, the immense amount of wealth that is tied up in the old system comes on board into this tokenized system, and it interacts with every protocol out there that serves utility. This is much more bullish than the government artificially pumping our bags. That is something that I don't think the crypto community should even get behind.
Well, I think that if you like Neil Ferguson is here, he has a great book on the ascent of money, and he's a historian, and so many things have been used as money over the years. I think it's pretty, this is still maybe a new idea, but I think it's clear at this point that, Bitcoin is a better form of money than gold. It is provably scarce, just like gold, but it's more portable and divisible. So you can actually it has higher utility, I would say. And it was the best performing asset of the last 10 years. And so for store of value, I think it's going to be important for governments to hold this over time. It might start with being 1% of their reserves, but I think over time it'll come to be equal to or greater than gold reserves.
The gold in Fort Knox equates to $280 billion worth of gold. That's what the estimates say. So even if you did have some type of strategic reserve that the government set up, we're not talking about, multi-trillions of dollars that they're buying. What they're doing is just would have a similar amount to gold, and then that would push other countries to kind of FOMO into it. So it could potentially be bullish, but the BRICS nations are stockpiling gold still, and you're seeing gold's chart starting to creep past all-time high yet again. I think conflating Bitcoin with gold has done the community a disservice, and frankly, as BRICS nations stockpile gold, what is that telling you? They're pushing away from the dollar system, right? And I think the true beauty behind crypto is the tokenized future, and maybe Bitcoin serves as a reserve currency of this tokenized world, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the reserve currency. People can use whatever they want for whatever costs that they're willing to pay for it. The bottom line is the BRICS nations are getting away from the dollar as a reserve currency. They don't care whether it's gold, Bitcoin, oil, whatever. They just want to get away from the dollar because they're afraid that their money is going to be stolen. And that's a much bigger headline. And that is certainly an impetus to be driven into this tokenized world. And you could have gold that's tokenized, right? The status quo doesn't need to change as much as we think it does. It just needs to move away from the dollar's legacy system. So as the United States regulates this, it's very important that the winners are onshore in the US for a strategic type of advantage of having most of the protocols, most of the companies that own a vast sum of tokens on the United States for tax revenue, and to continue keeping the dollar as one of the superpowers of this next gen financial system.
We want, I really want crypto to update the financial system globally, and that means it's going to have to integrate with every traditional financial service firm. Many of them are already doing it, by the way. The card networks, the big banks, the fintech platforms, PayPal, Stripe, CashApp, Robinhood, all have crypto integrated now. This is good. We want this to happen. The only way we're going to really update the financial system is to integrate with every company.
There's a long road ahead of us. Integrating with every company, just Coinbase integrating with every company, what is that going to do to the crypto industry when every large financial company, every merchant, everybody has accessibility into tokenized payment rails and interacting with tokens? I mean, the future is going to look a lot different than what people are anticipating. And we've really just scratched the surface. I know that the crypto market cap is almost $3 trillion, but I would argue that, we're looking at quadrillions of dollars headed into crypto rails.
The actual utility, the velocity of all of the assets, like what's actually happening on chain that's really transformational and getting to the points that Brian just raised, that's already happening today. And we don't talk about that as much. And so I think that there's just so much more to show out there. And I think that we're right now, because we're in this area where I think regulation is going to be more favorable in the US, we're going to hit this opportunity to really showcase all of the real work and to work more with traditional financial services, like with Jenny's company. Like Jenny's been sort of in front of this, but others are going to move into this now in a much more aggressive way.
It's like what Brian said from Bank of America, is that the banks are waiting for the regulations and they are going to push hard once these become clear. And I think also it's important to note that the use cases, the low-hanging fruit gets solved first, right? So stable coins would definitely be low-hanging fruit, tokenized securities, real estate, that would be low-hanging fruit. But it's going to evolve over time. As more solutions are needed, those are going to be the trending type of issues that get solved, right? So it's only a matter of time before we see the more speculative things become reality and things like DPIN or privacy get solved on chain.
We can come back to that topic, but to me, that's one of those important freedoms right up there with speech, which is foundational to all prosperity in society. And if we can actually inject good financial infrastructure to every country of the world for anybody who has a smartphone, plug them into the global economy, I think it's going to lift billions of people out of poverty, and it's going to be very transformational over the next couple decades.
It's funny, with economics, scarcity rarely works out well. And it works out better when abundance, inclusive societies include people, include industries, allow everybody to participate. This is where we see real wealth generation occur. And we rarely see good things occur when people are focused on haves and have-nots versus growing the pie so everybody has a piece of pie. And I think that's what crypto does very, very well. And, there's always the debate of gold versus Bitcoin, but I think that issue is missed often with crypto and innovation and voting on the future, making things a brighter future for all versus scarcity.
Always surprised by how big the crypto space is, people who come to these conferences, names that you would know that would come to these conferences, and then how on the traditional asset management or even the traditional finance side, that there's literally blinders on to this massive growth in this community. And at some point, they have to come together. And I think the challenge is, from a regulatory standpoint, is that it's really difficult because it's very disruptive, but it's literally like two parallel universes kind of running along.
Right.
She's the head of Franklin Templeton. Franklin Templeton is one of the largest banking institutions out there. They're almost as big as Fidelity or BlackRock. And what she says really rings true. A lot of the banking world, a lot of the traditional financial world's really just ignoring crypto, and the community keeps growing and growing and growing, and eventually you're going to see them intertwine. And this is the real opportunity. We're already at $3 trillion when all of the wealth of the old system merges with the tokenized standard. What does that do? Bankers regard research as most dangerous a thing that makes banking hazardous due to the rapid changes it brings about in industry. Thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. If you enjoy content like this, please consider joining my Patreon or my ghost site, dmjr.ghost.io.